We're talking about three countries here which have very often competing interests in that particular region, aren't we, Jamal? So this is going to be a very interesting and quite a difficult summit.
Indeed, I mean, competing interests in the sense that obviously everybody wanted to see a different outcome with regards to the war in Syria, but what unites all three countries is their desire to see an end to the war, albeit with the realization that certain concessions need to be made by each side. And that's really what triggered this process roughly a year ago when the Astana talks began. These were an attempt to de-escalate the situation, a more realistic approach by the three countries, each of which had been playing some role, greater or lesser than, with regards to this proxy conflict that's gone on for so long. As far as the Turks are concerned, their main interest here was not only to ensure that the fighting subdued, but also that it was able to control certain parts of northern Syria in order to allow for the return of Syrian refugees, numbered in their millions, more than 2 million that exist here inside Turkey. The Russians obviously invested greatly in supporting the regime of Bashar al-Assad militarily speaking, and obviously having military presence abroad is something that always adds strain to security establishments. And the Iranians, through the militias that they sent, as well as obviously funding to the Syrian regime, be it through oil supplies or other things, obviously the Syrian conflict has had its burden on it, not to mention the fact that Iran is also involved in several other conflicts in the region, not least, as we've just heard there, Yemen. So that's what's been triggering each one of these sides to try and find a solution. What are they discussing today? Well, specifically, they're looking at Idlib, the last remaining stronghold of the armed opposition groups inside Syria, but also how to essentially, to put it quite bluntly, divvy up the country. The Turks are looking to ensure that they control east of the Euphrates Sea. The Russians will want certain guarantees with regards to that. The Iranians as well, that their influence on the country isn't lost if that's taken into account. What's important also to mention here, Rob, isn't just who is participating in this trilateral, but also who isn't. So the US, that has military presence in Syria, isn't part of this. They have obviously their own interest that they will be pushing for through other means. The United Nations, which has been the sponsor of an attempt to try and find a political solution, this whole constitutional body that they were trying to set up, and some sort of agreement between different parties that have failed consecutively despite the different Syria envoys that they have appointed over the years, despite the Geneva process and so forth. They aren't here, albeit the fact that the United Nations say that they support the Astana process and that they work independently of it. So this is the sixth time they meet as a trilateral summit. It is expected to yield some sort of results. How great they are, we'll find out when a press conference is held in a few hours' time.
Thanks, Jamal.